The necklace. From his workroom, which led by way of a low arched stone entrance onto a large courtyard, where as usual, his young trainees were having their midday break for food and relaxation, their kindly teacher, a master craftsman and greatly respected authority on precious stones, raised his eyes from the glittering section of a piece of jewelry which he was examining. His pupils were very dear to him, my children he called them, and indeed he gave to each a father's affection and showed parental pride when any gave signs of following in his footsteps when they left him to make their own way in their skilled profession. The work was exacting and required many years of study. Not only must those who came to him to learn about precious stones be able to identify the rough specimens to recognize the real from the cunning imitation, but also they had to assess when a jewel could be brought to perfection by polishing alone, and how to enhance another's beauty by intricate cutting of facets, so as to catch the light from all angles, and how to test for flaws. They were taught to select and match and to discern the means by which each shining gem would look its best. Finally, to set them in the countless ways this could be accomplished to make them into lovely works of art. Truly a life's work, and only those of his boys who proved themselves to be of an exceptionally high standard of intelligence could hope to remain with him after a year's trial apprenticeship. That he must be able to trust their honesty was naturally of paramount importance, but because he was a wise and discerning teacher, this necessary quality of character was unlikely to be found wanting in any of his young pupils whose ages ranged from 10 to 18. He could see deep into the mind of each new applicant and assess their integrity as surely as he could judge the real from the imitation jewel. I am fond of them all. They are good boys and eager to learn. Yet have I to search amongst them for more than honest endeavor, a quick brain, and good judgment. They have other lessons to learn if they are ready. He gave a little sigh. Are there any as yet to whom spiritual jewels will manifest themselves? Thus did he muse as he paused at his work to listen to the boys' chatter which drifted through the opening where he sat at his bench. The usual familiar sound seemed harsher today, he noticed. Normally the midday heat made the voices drowsy, and often good-tempered teasing accompanied by quiet laughter would give place to the sounds of a simple village song, begun by one and taken up by the rest, the high voices blending delightfully and interspersed with the curious croak of the older boys whose trebles were fast becoming deeper with manhood's approach. Sounds of running water always formed a soothing background to the voices as they filled the heavy pitchers at the well situated in the far corner of the courtyard. Today, however, these sounds were stilled. Talking there most certainly was, but it lacked the happy good-natured quality which was familiar to his ears. He listened again and shook his head while a somewhat rueful smile played about his lips. Quietly and unhurriedly, he laid aside the piece of jewelry he was examining, rose from his workbench, and stooping, went through the arch out into the sunlight. The little group of boys were sitting alone, some with legs outstretched, others hugging their knees, beneath the cedar tree not far from the well. Their water vessels and the remains of their meal were scattered around them. They did not see their teacher as he stood by the entrance, nor did he make his presence known to them, for he wished to hear more. They were arguing heatedly, which was unusual, but the subject under discussion would not have sounded strange to a visitor's ears. It was all about a necklace which their teacher had suddenly brought to them 6 days before. He had bidden them study it closely, yet had given no explanation. "Look at it well, my children," he had said. "I want each one to hold it in his hands to note within himself what he has assessed, but to say nothing aloud. Nor do I wish you to seek each other's opinions. Each must keep his own counsel for 7 days, for thereby will you be unable to be diverted from your own conclusions. On the morning of the 7th day I will listen to what each of you has to tell me concerning this necklace. Take your time to handle it. I am in no hurry." And so each boy had gazed in awe and admiration as the lovely thing was gently handed into each trembling pair of hands. Then, when it was finally evident that they had no need to see it more, their teacher, with a kindly smile to them all, left them alone, bearing the necklace back to its unknown place of safekeeping. They watched him as he passed through the opening to his inner room, then turned eagerly to each other. An excited babble broke out amongst them, to be suddenly silenced by one of their number who guiltily reminded them that they had been asked not to discuss this strange happening for 7 days. Reluctantly, they were forced to agree, but the time to wait seemed interminable. However, the days had somehow passed, and now but one remained. It was a chance remark made by one of them, whilst they restlessly ate their midday meal and drew the cooling well water that had loosed their tongues, and their teacher's request was forgotten in a flood of words. "See the color of that water down there. Green as the emerald necklace we were shown," was uttered in a matter-of-fact tone by one of the older boys. "But it was not. Are you colorblind? Whoever saw an emerald blue? Blue? What are you saying? It was the clearest amber I have ever seen." "You must be ill, all of you, not to recognize that gorgeous deep blue as a sapphire. The whole lot of you are out of your minds. I know a ruby when I see one. Listen to him. How long since his eyes failed him? Can't he tell the difference between an amethyst and—" The argument went back and forth, and derision and anger were reflected on flushed faces. So immersed were they that they failed to notice one of their number who had withdrawn and stood watching them with amazed and troubled expression. He was not as old as the others and was a recent arrival. He remained silent, and his face showed clearly that he was dejected and bewildered. It was a charming little face, strong, finely chiseled features, a firm, sensitive mouth, and eyes like deep pools set wide apart. His limbs were long and sturdy, and he showed promise of being tall when he grew older. Now he stood watching the other boys, taking no part and well aware they were far too busy shouting derisively at each other, each one contradicting and trying to assert himself and taking no notice whatever of the lonely little figure. Thus it was that he first saw their teacher standing in the doorway. "Peace, peace, my children, could you not keep your tongues from wagging for just one more day as I asked? I did not realize that 7 days of silence was such an imposition on your youthful minds. It was evidently too long. My fault, forgive me." The kindly understanding words instantly quelled the angry young voices, and a somewhat chastened group followed their teacher to resume their labors. At the end of the afternoon's work, he suggested that they stay a while to discuss with him their individual opinions upon the necklace rather than wait another day, for he knew they had still not worked off their inflamed feelings towards each other. To this suggestion they all readily agreed, giving derisive glances amongst themselves, save the youngest, whose eyes saw none but his teacher's. "Now, my sons, you have evidently arrived at definite conclusions. That was apparent to my ears this noon. Let me hear from you in order of seniority." And so the excited voices one by one began. "Master, I delighted in its perfection. I could see no flaws, being the color it was. Its setting was in complete accord. I could have wished such emeralds and such depth of green to have been fashioned into an even longer necklace. Perhaps I am prejudiced, my favorite stone and color, as all here know well." An angry gasp from the others, as cries of "No, no, master, I saw them here, lying on my hands, the heavenly blue sapphires. I have never wavered from the Queen of Gems. Master, hear me. Is there anything more restful than the clear amber, the cool polished feel of each, like drops of honey to look at with the sun caught in every one as I held them up? They always give me a feeling of happiness. You must be laughing, master, when you were looking, as was I, at the rich fire glow of the rubies which make all other precious stones seem pale and insignificant beside their dramatic intensity of color." Back and forth the cries went once again, each intent upon being heard in their efforts to drown each other's voices. Still their teacher had made no comment, and at last they fell silent from exhaustion. "There is yet one of you I behold who says nothing. My child, you who have recently come amongst us, have you nothing to say? Did you not hold this same necklace?" Bravely now the young boy met the kind eyes of his teacher. "Master, can it be that my strange and seemingly different view of this great treasure which my fumbling hands held so lately is worth mentioning? It seems my brothers have all so much more experience. They have seen clearly one color, one stone, even though they disagree as to what color and which stones these be, whilst I—" There was a silence in the room, and the fading shafts of sunlight laid golden fingers upon the tense little figure. "Yes, my child, do not feel uneasy, we are all listening," came the quiet voice of authority. "Master, I saw not one color but all colors. Not one jewel matched to its neighbor, but all jewels. They blended one with another. They seemed a part of each other, each perfect yet setting off each other's beauty. I saw light coming from each one. I saw light being absorbed into them. I heard music within the quivering light and color. I seemed to hear words of help and encouragement, wise and yet so easy for my foolish brain to understand. I had never really seen beauty before I entered your door, Master, nor ever heard music like that which yet sings within me. Yet I now feel more lonely than I have ever felt, for my companions seem angry that all cannot see with their eyes, and how can they be reconciled if each is sure the other one is wrong? They are older, more clever than I. But who am I to speak thus? You, Master, are my judge. If I be mad, send me away quickly, and I will seek another life task within my limited powers of judgment to perform. Gently, as in a blessing, the teacher laid his hand on the drooping head before him. You have found truth, my child, because you did not seek to impose your own personal desires upon that which was given you as a test. You did not see only that which appealed to you, for your mind remained open to receive, and you were able to resist the temptation of declaring what you saw and heard. By your silence you have proved steadfast and wise, and no brother's hand shall be raised against you. Then turning to them all, he addressed them in kindly tones. The necklace which I gave to you to study was not made of earthly substances. It was not one color nor one gem, for it incorporated all colors, all wisdom, all truth in its varying facets. Each gem was a facet, and thus were all a part of each other. All of you, except your youngest brother, saw the whole as each personally would have it be. You took from this necklace one color, one gem, which to each one of you was far above the rest in your own opinions, and you quarreled bitterly and foolishly because you could not agree. That is why I did not wish you to discuss it amongst yourselves. You have not yet learned tolerance, my sons. When you go out into the world, you will remember the lesson of the necklace. Do not simply look for that which interests you to the exclusion of another's views, hopes, and aspirations. To take from life regardless of your brother's feelings is to gain nothing worth having for yourselves. It will earn you only mocking laughter and leave frustration in its wake. Do not be downcast, my children, nor need you be lonely, my son. There are many years before you all to learn much, both in your chosen craft and of the jewels of wisdom, far above any you will work with on this earth. Go back to your homes now and sleep, and return tomorrow with no malice towards each other. Think upon what you have heard this eventide. Many years passed, and the apprentices became skilled masters of their art and left their beloved teacher that they might carry on their life work in many parts of the world. I believe there still remains a great teaching center for craftsmen in that area. I have heard tell that a huge cedar tree of unknown age still grows in an ancient courtyard, and that people who live close by talk of a great and wise master craftsman who once lived and taught there. He must have been greatly loved, for his description has been handed down for generations. They say he was tall and of strong physique, with finely chiseled features, a firm and sensitive mouth, and with eyes like twin pools of wisdom set far apart. They do say that he possessed a necklace of rare beauty which he inherited from his former teacher, but no one quite knows what became of it. Perhaps someday it will be rediscovered. Who knows?